Let me ask you something. Why are you broke? No, seriously. Why are you still stuck in the same job, driving the same car, eating the same reheated leftovers, while someone dumber than you just bought their second house? Don't roll your eyes. You know exactly who I'm talking about. That guy from high school who could barely spell his own name is now pulling 6 figures, and you're still Googling how to make passive income in 2025. The difference isn't brains. It's not luck. It's the size of their thinking, and if that pisses you off, good, it should, because that's exactly where we're going today. Today we're diving into The Magic of Thinking Big by David J. Schwartz. This book isn't new. It first came out in 1959, and if you're tempted to say, but that's old, let me stop you right there. So is gravity, but you still fall on your face when you trip. Timeless principles don't expire. David J. Schwartz was a professor, consultant, and motivational powerhouse who spent years studying why some people succeed while others just exist. And here's what he found. Success has less to do with talent, education, or working yourself into an early grave, and everything to do with how big you allow yourself to think. But before we go deeper, here's a disclaimer. This video falls under the Fair Use Act. It's for educational purposes only. We're not just summarizing Schwartz's book, we're transforming it. We're adding context, commentary, and some confrontation. If you want the raw text, buy the book. If you want the truth served with a slap in the face, stay right here. So, what is this book really about? It's not about positive thinking in the corny put a vision board up and wish kind of way. It's about rewiring the way you think so big that your excuses, your fears, and your mediocrity don't even stand a chance. And let me warn you, this isn't comfortable. If you want your ego stroked, go watch cat videos. But if you want to know why your life still looks like a participation trophy when it should look like a championship ring, then buckle up. Welcome to Mindful Reads Hub. Let's get started. The spark, believe before you see it. So let me throw this grenade at you. When was the last time you actually believed in yourself before you had proof? Don't lie. Most of you are addicted to certainty. You won't apply for that better job until you've got the degree. You won't start the business until the economy feels right. You won't even talk to the girl until you're sure she won't laugh at you. You're waiting for guarantees. And let me break it to you, you'll die waiting. David Schwartz didn't write The Magic of Thinking Big for the people who want evidence first. He wrote it for the people who understand that belief isn't the reward for success, it's the damn down payment. He tells the story of Harry, an average salesman who wasn't smarter, didn't work harder, didn't have a better territory, but still made 5 times the income of his peers. Why? Because he thought 5 times bigger. That's it. He didn't come with special genes or a magic brain. He came with audacity. The world didn't confirm his greatness before he acted. He acted before the world could stop him. And that's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't fail because they don't have enough brains. They fail because they think too damn small. You tell yourself you want success, but what you really want is safety. You want to know the mountain will move before you bother pushing it. Schwartz rips that illusion apart. Belief isn't passive, it's an engine. When you believe I can, your mind goes to work inventing ways. When you believe I can't, your mind gets equally busy inventing excuses. Both sides are efficient. You decide which factory you're running. Let's be real. You've met people dumber than a box of rocks who are still ahead of you. They're not waiting to be ready. They just believe they belong in the room, so the room eventually agrees. Meanwhile, you, overthinking, second-guessing, doubting yourself, are still on the sidelines convincing yourself you're not prepared. That's why Schwartz says belief is like a thermostat. It sets the temperature of your whole life. Low belief, cold results, high belief, things heat up fast. And here's where it gets brutal. Disbelief is just as powerful, but in reverse. It's not neutral, it's sabotage. If you doubt yourself, you literally train your brain to search for failure. You've heard people say, I knew it wouldn't work out. Yeah, no kidding. You rehearsed failure so much that your brain delivered exactly what you ordered. That's not bad luck. That's cause and effect. Schwartz gives examples of ordinary people who used belief as fuel. A woman who started a trailer business with no money, no experience, and no permission, but an unshakable belief that she could win. Result? $1 million sales. A tiny engineering firm that took on a project far beyond their capacity because they believed they could figure it out. And they did. These aren't miracles. They're case studies in what happens when belief drives the wheel instead of fear. So let me ask you, what's your thermostat set at? Are you living life at 68 degrees of comfort? Or are you willing to crank the heat until you're sweating from the pressure of your own ambition? Stop looking at people with more money or better jobs like they've been blessed by some invisible lottery. They simply dared to believe when you didn't. And here's the insult you don't want to hear. If you're stuck, it's not because life is unfair or because opportunities don't exist. It's because your belief system is microscopic. You want proof before faith. You want certainty before risk. You want comfort before courage. But life doesn't work that way. You don't wait for evidence. You manufacture it by betting on yourself first. Key takeaway. Belief is not a wish. It's a weapon. It doesn't wait for permission, proof, or probability. The size of your belief determines the size of your life. If you keep thinking small, stop acting surprised when your life is small. Favorite quote, believe, really believe, you can succeed and you will. Excuses and fear, the silent killers of potential. Let's be real, most of you are professional excuse makers. You could medal in the Olympics of self-sabotage. I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I don't have the education, I don't have the connections. You've got a buffet of reasons why you can't succeed, and you gorge yourself on them every day like it's your last supper. The truth? Excuses are nothing more than elegant lies dressed up to make you feel better about being average. Schwartz calls it excusitis, the failure disease. And if you're honest, you've caught it. Some people get the health version. I'd go after my goals, but I've got this medical condition. Funny how some folks with one leg climb Everest while you can't even climb the stairs without complaining. Others hide behind intelligence. I'm just not smart enough. Right, because being smart has worked out so well for all those broke geniuses with degrees on the wall and nothing in the bank. Then there's age. I'm too young, I'm too old. Guess what? Someone younger than you just built an app worth millions, and someone older than you just ran a marathon. The excuse isn't your age, it's your laziness. And let's not forget the classic, bad luck. That's the favorite of losers everywhere. If only I'd been born rich, if only I hadn't gotten laid off, if only the universe liked me. No, the universe doesn't hate you. You just haven't done anything worth noticing. Here's the thing. Every single person who ever achieved anything could have leaned on the same excuses you do, but they didn't. Roosevelt ran a country from a wheelchair. Edison had almost no formal education. Oprah came from poverty. You think you've got a harder life? No, you've got softer discipline. Excuses are the narcotics of failure. They dull the pain of mediocrity, but they also keep you from ever getting better. And let's talk about fear, because excuses and fear are twins. They come from the same rotten womb. Fear is the invisible leash around your neck. Fear of failing, fear of looking stupid, fear of rejection. You know how many brilliant ideas have died because someone was too scared to look like an idiot? Probably more than we'll ever know. Schwartz makes it plain. Confidence isn't born out of waiting until you're ready. Confidence is forged by doing the thing you're terrified of, screwing it up, and realizing you didn't die. Fear shrinks the more you face it. It grows the more you avoid it. Most people wait for confidence like it's Amazon Prime. I'll just wait, and one day it'll show up on my doorstep. That's not how it works. You build confidence through action. Schwartz says you don't need perfect conditions to start. You need the courage to move anyway. That's how you cure fear. You act your way into confidence. Want to stop being nervous in social situations? Talk to more people. Want to stop being terrified of public speaking? Volunteer for it until you're numb. The antidote to fear is exposure. But here's the catch. Your brain has two foremen running the thought factory. One named Triumph, the other named Defeat. Triumph shows you reasons why you can. Defeat shows you reasons why you can't. And whichever one you feed becomes the boss. You think your days are bad because you let defeat run the schedule, change the signal, and triumph takes over. But that takes responsibility, something excuse makers avoid like the plague. Let's cut the fluff. Excuses are easier than effort, fear feels safer than failure, and mediocrity is more comfortable than mastery. That's why most people will never break free. Not because they can't, but because they won't. Schwartz is brutal on this. Stop waiting for conditions to be perfect. Stop dressing up cowardice as caution. And stop thinking excuses make you sound smart. They only make you sound stuck. You've got two options. You can either keep rehearsing excuses until you become fluent in failure, or you can choke them off at the source and step forward even when you're scared. One path gives you safety, the other gives you life. Choose. Key takeaway: excuses and fear are self-inflicted prisons. They keep you comfortable, but they also keep you small. Confidence doesn't show up before action, it's born out of it. If you want to stop being scared, stop being still. Favorite quote: think doubt and fail. Think victory and succeed. Thinking big and dreaming wild. The blueprint of giants. You've been trained to think small your entire life. Society spoon-fed you limitations before you even knew your multiplication tables. Be realistic. Don't aim too high. Stay safe. And guess what? You listened. You shrunk your dreams down to fit inside a cubicle, a paycheck, and a 30-year mortgage. And then you had the audacity to call it being responsible. No, it's not responsibility. It's surrender. Schwartz tears this apart by showing that the size of your thinking directly dictates the size of your results. Small thoughts create small lives. Big thoughts create big lives. It's really that simple. And yet, most of you are allergic to thinking big. Why? Because big thinking demands courage, creativity, and risk. Three things most people avoid like the plague. Thinking big is not about fantasy, it's about perspective. Schwartz tells us to measure ourselves by our true potential, not by the cramped standards of people around us. He shows how the language you use reveals the size of your thinking. When you say things like, "I'll try," "maybe one day," or "that's not realistic," you're not being cautious, you're programming failure into your brain. Big thinkers speak differently. They talk in terms of what's possible, what's next, what's inevitable. They don't ask, "Can I do this?" They ask, "How can I make this bigger than anyone imagined?" And here's the kicker. Big thinking demands creativity. Most people treat creativity like it's reserved for artists and musicians, when in reality, creativity is just the ability to break free from lazy, recycled thoughts. Schwartz calls out traditional thinking as the death trap. You know the type, the ones who say, "This is how it's always been done." Those words are the funeral song of progress. If you want to rise above the ordinary, you have to reject the hand-me-down thinking that keeps everyone else in line. One of his points hits especially hard: visualization. If you can't picture something bigger, you'll never build it. Successful people live in the future before anyone else does. They see what could be, while everyone else is still obsessed with what is. That's why the Wright brothers were ridiculed for thinking humans could fly, or why Elon Musk was mocked for thinking we could colonize Mars. Visionaries are always treated like lunatics, until the world catches up and calls them geniuses. But let's stop talking about billionaires for a second. What about you? You've got ideas rotting in your head right now because you don't have the guts to dream out loud. You kill your own creativity before it even leaves the launch pad. You tell yourself, "I can't do that. I don't have the resources. I don't have the talent." You're not short on resources. You're short on imagination. Creativity isn't about having the perfect tools. It's about believing something can be done and then inventing the damn tools if they don't exist. Schwartz gives practical steps, like stretching your mind by asking, "How can this be done better?" or deliberately exposing yourself to new experiences that break the monotony of your thinking. But let me slap you with the truth. None of these techniques matter if you're committed to playing small. You can't think big if your ego is addicted to excuses. You can't dream creatively if you care more about looking smart than about being bold. Look at your life right now. Every result you have, the money, the relationships, the career, is a reflection of the size of your thinking up until this moment. If that depresses you, good. It should, because it also means you can change it. Thinking big and dreaming wild is not about delusion. It's about refusing to let the prison of other people's opinions define your possibilities. So here's the question. Are you going to keep thinking like an ant and living like one? Or are you going to think like a giant and scare the hell out of yourself with the size of your own vision? Key takeaway, your thoughts set the ceiling of your life. If you think small, you live small. If you dare to think bigger than your circumstances, your creativity will find the tools, the paths, and the people to make it real. Stop asking if it's realistic. Start asking if it's big enough to be worth your life. Favorite quote, think big. The size of your success is determined by the size of your belief. Identity and environment, becoming who you believe you are. You ever notice how people introduce themselves with an apology? Oh, I'm just a teacher. I'm just in retail. I'm just a stay-at-home parent. Just. You've already decided you're small before anyone else had a chance to judge you, and you wonder why the world treats you like a background character. You've written yourself into the script as the extra, not the lead. That's not humility, that's self-sabotage. Schwartz hits you straight in the face with this. You are what you think you are. The image you hold of yourself sets the tone for how others see you. Confidence isn't some abstract trait. It leaks out in your posture, your words, the way you shake hands, even the way you sit in a meeting. If you carry yourself like you don't matter, people will agree. If you project importance, people will treat you like you belong. And here's the uncomfortable truth. People can smell self-respect or the lack of it like blood in the water. That's why someone less qualified than you gets the promotion. They walk in like they already deserve the corner office, while you're still apologizing for breathing too loud. You don't rise to the level of your talent, you sink to the level of your self-image, but it's not just what you think of yourself, it's what you let surround you. Schwartz makes it clear, your environment is either rocket fuel or quicksand. Hang around complainers, small thinkers, and professional victims long enough, and their mediocrity becomes contagious. And don't lie, you felt it. That one friend who drains you every time you talk, the co-workers who gossip instead of grow, the family members who roll their eyes when you mention your dreams. You absorb that garbage whether you want to or not. Your environment is shaping you constantly, either sharpening your edge or dulling it. So why do most people stay in toxic environments? Because it's familiar. Familiar feels safe, even when it's destroying you. Schwartz doesn't sugarcoat this. If you want to think like a winner, you can't spend your life sitting at the loser's table. You've got to upgrade your environment. Books that challenge you, people who push you, mentors who scare you a little. Comfort zones are the breeding ground of mediocrity. If you feel comfortable all the time, you're not growing, you're decaying. And let's talk about the fake humility epidemic. Some of you hide behind, I don't want to come off arrogant, as if dimming your own light is noble. It's not noble, it's pathetic. Schwartz's point isn't to fake it, but to grow into it. Carry yourself with quiet confidence. Respect yourself enough to act like your life matters. Because it does. The world isn't going to crown you king if you show up acting like a servant. But here's where the knife really twists. Most people reading this will nod along and then go right back to hanging out with people who secretly want them to fail. Why? Because breaking away from your environment requires sacrifice. It means being alone for a while. It means outgrowing people who don't want to be left behind. And that's painful. But what's more painful? Wasting another decade stuck at the level of the people who refuse to grow with you. You become the story you tell yourself. You become the average of the people you keep closest. And right now, your story is weak, and your circle is probably holding you hostage. So either rewrite the script and find a better cast, or keep pretending mediocrity is destiny. Key takeaway, the world sees you through the lens you hand it. If you see yourself as small, you'll live small. If you surround yourself with people who think small, they'll keep you there. Respect yourself, project confidence, and build an environment that forces you to grow. Favorite quote, the person who thinks they are somebody is going to get somewhere. The person who thinks they are nobody isn't. Attitude and people, the allies or enemies you build. The brutal truth? People can feel your attitude before you open your mouth. You don't need to wear a sign around your neck that says, I'm negative or I'm insecure. It leaks out in your body language, your tone, the way you respond to setbacks. You know someone who sucks the life out of the room the second they walk in? Yeah, that's an attitude. And here's what Schwartz makes clear. Your attitude is either an ally or an assassin. It's either building bridges, attracting allies, creating opportunities, or it's cutting every rope you might need to climb. But let's stop pretending this is just about being positive. That's too cheap. This is about power. If you're carrying yourself with bitterness, sarcasm, or defeatism, you're telling the world exactly how much you believe in yourself. Not much. People don't want to follow negativity. They don't want to partner with it. They don't want to invest in it. You can have the best idea in the world, but if your energy is toxic, no one cares. Schwartz points out that the way you think about people dictates how far you'll go with them. If you see people as enemies, competitors, or obstacles, don't be surprised when life feels like a battlefield you're constantly losing. But if you see people as allies, as doors to opportunity, as collaborators in your success, suddenly you're not fighting the world, you're building it with them. The world reflects your attitude back at you. See hostility, you'll find hostility. See potential, you'll find partners. Here's where this gets uncomfortable. Most of you want success, but you secretly resent successful people. You scroll social media, sneering at the guy who just bought a new car, or the woman who got promoted, muttering, "Must be nice." You don't realize that attitude is chaining you to the very mediocrity you hate. You can't envy success and expect to attract it. You can't gossip about winners and expect to join their circle. Schwartz nails it. Respect people, believe in people, and you'll gain their respect in return. But this isn't just about respect, it's about value. Do you add energy to the people around you, or do you drain it? Do people feel sharper, stronger, more capable when they're around you, or do they leave exhausted? If your relationships feel shallow or transactional, look in the mirror. You're the common denominator. And if you're still clinging to the excuse that people just don't understand me, maybe the truth is people understand you perfectly well. They just don't like what they see. Schwartz drives home a point that cuts deep. Big people think well of others. Small people think poorly of others. It's not complicated. You want to know how big someone really is? Watch how they treat the waiter, the janitor, the people they don't need. Small minds look for flaws. Big minds look for potential. And life has a funny way of rewarding the big thinkers who invest in people instead of tearing them down. Look at your own life. Your friends, co-workers, even strangers. They're either stepping stones or stumbling blocks, depending entirely on your attitude toward them. If you're struggling, maybe it's not bad luck. Maybe it's that your attitude toward people is toxic and they're responding by giving you nothing, because people are mirrors. If you want more from them, give more to them. So here's the punch in the gut. You don't need a new job, a new city, or a new opportunity. You need a new attitude. Start walking like you believe in yourself. Start treating people like they matter. Start showing up like your energy is worth following. Because here's the secret, it always has been. Key takeaway, your attitude is the silent deal maker of your life. It either attracts people and opportunities or repels them. Treat people with genuine respect, see their potential, and project belief, because the world reflects your attitude right back at you. Favorite quote, grow the attitude of respect for people. The person who doesn't respect people can't go very far. Action and resilience, when defeat becomes fuel. Here's the uncomfortable reality. Your life isn't measured by what you intend to do, it's measured by what you actually do. Nobody cares about the book you might write someday, the business plan you'll launch when the timing's right, or the fitness routine you'll start next Monday. Ideas without action are just mental clutter, and you're not being cautious, you're being cowardly. Schwartz makes it clear that successful people act, even when the conditions aren't perfect. They don't sit around waiting for the weather to change or the stars to align. They understand that Action itself creates momentum, and momentum creates opportunities. It's not about genius, it's about guts. Most people never fail because they never even start. They sit on the runway polishing their plane until they run out of fuel, and then they blame life for keeping them grounded. The irony? The more you act, the less fear controls you. Action kills anxiety. Procrastination feeds it. Think about it. How many times have you dreaded making a phone call, starting a project, or having a difficult conversation? You build it up in your head, spin every worst case scenario until the fear feels bigger than life itself. But the second you actually do it, it's over. Fear deflates under the weight of movement. That's why Schwartz calls for an action habit. Don't overthink, don't delay, act now. And let's talk about defeat, because this is where most people collapse. The first setback, the first rejection, the first taste of failure, and they're out. They crawl back to safety and call it being realistic. But here's the raw truth. Defeat isn't a dead end. It's the toll you pay on the road to victory. Every single person who has ever accomplished anything worthwhile has been chewed up by defeat. The difference is they didn't stop there. Schwartz gives examples of how setbacks can become fuel if you let them. The big win comes not from avoiding defeat, but from reinterpreting it. Did you get rejected? Good. Now you know what doesn't work. Did your plan collapse? Perfect. You've just discovered a weak spot before it could cost you more. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the raw material success is built from. Winners recycle defeat into energy. Losers recycle it into excuses. But here's the confrontation you don't want to hear. You don't lack opportunity. You lack resilience. You've been coddled into thinking life should be smooth. The second it gets hard, you collapse like wet cardboard. The truth? You're fragile. And fragile people don't win. You need to stop worshipping comfort and start worshipping progress, because progress is forged in pressure, setbacks, and sweat. This is why so many people get stuck in mediocrity. They confuse safe with stable. They think avoiding risk means avoiding pain. No, avoiding risk means avoiding growth. You're not protecting yourself. You're suffocating yourself. Every time you dodge action or run from defeat, you're trading your future for the illusion of safety. And when you wake up 10 years later in the same spot, you'll wonder what went wrong. What went wrong is that you chose stillness over movement and excuses over resilience. Life doesn't reward intention, it rewards execution. It rewards those who get knocked down and stand up again, bloody, tired, humiliated, but still moving, because those are the people who eventually get somewhere. The rest are left clapping from the sidelines, telling themselves they could have made it if things had been different. Key takeaway: action is destiny. The more you act, the less fear controls you. The more you rise after defeat, the closer you get to victory. Success doesn't come from avoiding failure, it comes from harvesting it. Stop waiting, move, fail, adjust, repeat. That's the formula. Favorite quote: action cures fear. Indecision, postponement, on the other hand, fertilize fear. Goals and leadership. Building the future before it arrives. Most of you don't have goals, you have wishes. And worse, you confuse the two. I want to get in shape. That's not a goal, that's a fantasy. A goal is, I will lose 15 pounds by December by hitting the gym 4 times a week and cutting soda. Big difference. Schwartz doesn't play around with this. Goals aren't optional if you want to grow. They're the blueprint, the scaffolding that forces you to stretch. Without goals, you just drift. And drifting feels safe until you wake up one day in a place you never wanted to be, wondering how you got there. Here's the thing, goals aren't about the result. They're about the person you have to become in the process. Setting a goal forces you to think bigger, act sharper, and live with direction instead of coasting. It's not just, what do I want, but what am I willing to build? Schwartz says goals should be challenging enough to pull you forward, but clear enough to measure. They're not supposed to be comfortable. If your goals don't scare you, they're not goals, they're errands. Now let's talk leadership, because this is where most people get it completely backwards. They think leadership is about titles, positions, or authority. Wrong. Leadership is about thinking beyond yourself and pulling others forward with you. A leader sees the future before it arrives and makes others believe in it too. Schwartz makes it clear, you don't need a fancy office or a team of 50 to think like a leader. You need vision, responsibility, and the guts to decide when everyone else hesitates. And here's where you probably need to hear the slap in the face. You're not waiting for the right moment to lead. You're just scared. Scared of responsibility, scared of being wrong, scared of standing out. But the truth is, leadership is forged in the moments of uncertainty. When nobody knows what to do, that's when a leader steps forward. Not because they're certain, but because they're willing to take the heat for making a choice. Leaders don't hide behind the crowd. They create the direction the crowd follows. Schwartz also dismantles the idea that leaders are born. That's another lazy excuse. Leaders are made, not born, and they're made by practice. Thinking bigger, acting bolder, setting goals so clear and powerful that they infect others with energy. If you're waiting for leadership to find you, stop. Nobody is coming with a crown. Leadership isn't given, it's taken through action, clarity, and vision. Here's a gut check. Look at your life right now. Do you have a clear set of goals, written down, tracked, measured, or are you just winging it? Are you taking ownership in your family, your work, your friendships, or are you just waiting for someone else to carry the responsibility while you criticize from the sidelines? Schwartz isn't asking you to be a CEO. He's demanding that you step up as the CEO of your own life. Stop outsourcing your future. Stop delegating your destiny to chance. This is why most people will never lead, because leadership starts with self-leadership. If you can't lead yourself, discipline your habits, follow through on your commitments, stay focused on your goals. Why should anyone else trust you to lead them? You want respect? Earn it by setting an example. You want influence? Build it by living a life others actually want to emulate. The bottom line is this: goals give you direction, leadership gives you power. Put them together and you stop drifting through life like a passenger. You start driving. And yes, it's harder. Yes, it means carrying more weight. But guess what? That's the cost of growth. Nobody remembers the passengers. History only remembers the drivers. Key takeaway: stop confusing wishes with goals. Stop confusing authority with leadership. Goals stretch you. Leadership defines you. The future doesn't just happen. It's built by people with the guts to see it before it exists and the discipline to drag it into reality. Favorite quote: the important thing is not where you were or where you are, but where you want to get. Conclusion: you've just had every excuse, every safety net, every lazy justification ripped out from under you. You can't unhear this. You can't go back to pretending you didn't know the truth. The truth is simple. The size of your life is the size of your thinking. You want to live small? Keep hiding behind excuses. Keep surrounding yourself with small-minded people. Keep worshipping fear and comfort. Keep mistaking intention for action. You'll get exactly what you ordered, a tiny, forgettable life. But if you're tired of playing safe, if you're sick of watching dumber, lazier, bolder people sprint past you while you make excuses, then here's your shot. You've been handed the blueprint. Believe bigger than your doubts. Strangle your excuses before they strangle you. Think so big it scares you. Build a self-image that demands respect. Treat people like allies instead of obstacles. Act before you feel ready. Turn defeat into gasoline. Set goals that drag you into the future and step up to lead, because nobody is coming to save you. That's the real magic of thinking big. It's not some cheesy motivational poster. It's not about wishing on stars. It's about rewiring your brain to stop living like a victim and start living like a builder. You don't wait for permission. You don't wait for proof. You don't wait for certainty. You move, you fail, you adapt, you repeat until life has no choice but to respect you. And if that pisses you off, good, it should. Because it means you know you've been living below your potential. That's the slap in the face you needed. What you do after this is on you. You can keep scrolling, keep binging videos, keep pretending you'll start tomorrow. Or you can shut this down and take the first uncomfortable step toward the life you actually want. Buy the book. Seriously, don't just take my word for it. David J. Schwartz laid out the playbook decades ago, and it's still undefeated. If you want the raw, unfiltered strategies, if you want to soak your mind in thinking big until it's impossible to go back to thinking small, then get your own copy of The Magic of Thinking Big. It will cost you less than another night of takeout, and it might just cost you your excuses forever. So here's the deal. If you're done living like a background character in your own story, hit the subscribe, join the tribe, and let's build lives that actually mean something. Stop watching, start doing, stop planning, start moving, stop waiting, start living, because the only real failure is staying the same after hearing the truth. This has been your reminder that you don't need permission to live big, you just need the guts to think big enough to start.